Hey boys, welcome back to some more Nrl Supercoach 2022, where we're going to be going through something a little bit different. I was keen to talk more about Supercoach. I'm just excited for the season ahead, and I was trying to think of what to do. I was going to go through every team and sort of discuss sort of my targets and the traps and all that, and I was going to start it. I was literally about to, but then I was like, you know what? The first round is, as you can see, the countdown, if you can see that, is only a week away, just over a week away. So I thought, I'm not going to be able to get every team done. So it'd be a bit of a waste of time. So I thought, you know what? Our second team, let's make a bit of a super pod team. So this is going to be a team full of players that basically 5% and under. There were a couple of players that were like 6-7%, and then you'll see I did put a couple of cheapy center wings and also a cheapy halfback, Ilias, who are obviously very highly owned, just because. Some of the cheapies, especially in the halves, like it was sort of like, well, there's no option. So if I'm going to make an actual team for Supercoach, like I've obviously got to have a couple of players that are not super pods. Otherwise, the team wouldn't really do anything very good, so to speak. So there's a couple of players that are highly owned. I think there's only 3 of them. The rest of them are like 5% and under. And then, yeah, there's a couple that are like 6-7. I was trying to push for that 5% and under, but I let a couple of guys that were just slightly higher owned. Not a lot, but yeah. So let's go through the pod team. So starting with the dummy halves, I've actually got Jazz Tavanga and Kobe Hetherington as the backup. Now, I've got to be honest, Hetherington, again, this team, it does dictate a lot on Team List Tuesday. Tavanga, I don't know. Like, I feel like he's going to get that 13 spot, maybe? Or maybe Curran does? I'm not too sure. I feel like Tavanga is a very good player. And if he gets the starting 13 spot, honestly, in my proper team, I'll probably lock him into the second row because he's a super coachy gun if he gets big minutes. So again, it dictates if he gets a starting spot. If he comes off the bench, I probably wouldn't go him. He's just a little bit too expensive for that. So that's one position that could get changed. There were a couple of decent dummy half pod players. I might go through a couple of the positions after we go through the full team and talk about who I could replace him with. And then Kobe Hetherington, again, he's a little bit awkwardly priced at 300k, but he's shown he's a really willing worker. He's got a bit about him. He's got a bit of footwork. He's got an offload, and he's shown in the trials he's been very, very strong for the Bronx. Like arguably their best forward in the last few trials. And again, I don't think he's going to get the start. I mean, I would be surprised if Pat Carrigan doesn't start at lock, but with Flegler missing the first few weeks, Carrigan could start at prop, or Hetherington could start at prop. So Hetherington for the first 4 or 5 weeks may get a starting spot, and a 300k in the dummy half spot, he'll get some decent points. So I don't mind him either. The front row forward. So there are honestly some decent options again, but I've gone with Mo Fodawaker, who was I think he was 2% owned. Also, I'll talk about that. Tavanga, I think, was 1%. Hetherington, I think, might have been... Maybe he was 6%. A few people had Hetherington. Maybe 4 or 6. I can't remember. Fodawaker was 2%. He's 500k. Good value. I think he's going to be very good again this year. He's been great for the last couple of seasons, and, he's just getting older. he's just got a very Supercoach friendly game. As long as he gets some big minutes, he's going to score well. So I like him in the team regardless. And then I've got Jermaine Tanoa Brown, who has gone to the Cowboys. And again, this sort of, it depends. If Tamalolo starts at lock, then Tanoa Brown, I would expect to probably get a starting front row spot. And at 270k, I think he's a good worker. I think he'll score pretty well. He's probably a bit of a head scratcher for some of you guys are probably thinking, why the hell have you got him there? But I've just got to... I feel like... I don't know. I honestly don't know with the Cowboys, though. Because, yeah, Tamalolo obviously hasn't played. He's also carrying... I think Tamalolo's carrying a niggle as well. So there's all shit up in the air with that. But Tanoa Brown, I think, he's a good player. Todd Payton wanted to get him from the Warriors, so I think he's going to get pretty big minutes. So it's whether or not I go with someone, he could be sort of my bench front row forward, and if I could get someone else who's a little bit better, maybe I would. Depending teams. But if he gets a starting spot, I don't mind going cheap in the front row, because if he averages like 40, 50, 55 at a pinch, that's good enough at 270. Then we have Zane Musgrove and Franklin Pele, who he is suspended for the first week. Yeah, comes back round 2. I mean, he's looked pretty strong. He's a big boy. He's aggressive. I would think he would get a bench spot at the Sharks. And Zane Musgrove, he's sort of, I mean, as a person, maybe not the best guy going around, but he's a good footy player. And if he gets decent minutes, he is a good Supercoach forward. So I don't mind him. There were some decent options in the front row. It's probably one position I definitely could think about mixing around. The second row, also a lot of good opportunities here. So I've gone, surprisingly, Ryan Madison was like 4%, I think. So Chuck Madison, Kickout was like 2%, and Nakora was, I think, 4%. So all good with upside. Madison is probably the standout here at 560, 570. I mean, again, if he plays big minutes on the edge, he's a Supercoach gun. Simple as that. Kickout, without Capel there, I've talked about it a few times, but without Capel there, I would expect Kickout to play the full 80 if he's fit. Unfortunately, he hasn't. I don't think he's played in any of the trials, so we haven't really seen, or maybe he has. Honestly, I can't even remember the Panthers. I know they got towed out by the Eels, but I don't know. I can't remember if he played a trial or not. But Kickout, if he's fit, I would expect him to play bigger minutes than sort of the 60-70. But yeah, I don't know. Kickout, is he going to regain that sort of form a couple of years ago? Potentially. Again, he could be up that 600k mark pretty quickly. And then Britton Nakora has looked very good. He probably had a bit of a down season last year, obviously in Supercoach and just general NRL, but I thought he was still pretty solid all in all, and I think it could be a bit of a bounce back year for him working with Nico Hines. He's obviously looked pretty strong running that hard line, which he's sort of known for. So it's not... People are acting like it's such a shock that Nakora is sort of getting tries, but it's like that's how he plays. Like he's since coming into the grade, he literally has always run that line, and he's... It's back at the start of the year, but whether or not that sort of carries through, we shall see. And then we have Nenai, Makatoa, and Andrew Davey. So Makatoa has been brilliant in the trials. Obviously, he doesn't get a starting spot, but Junior Paulo has been, a few niggles last year. His minutes declined slightly. And then Regan Campbell-Gillard, I think, there were the odd game where he played big minutes. But I think how they should play Campbell-Gillard is more that impact 40 minutes. And then if Makatoa plays like 40 minutes coming off the bench, I mean, he is very, very good. So a little bit, again, a bit awkwardly placed or priced. So if I needed the money, to upgrade one of my front rowers, potentially I could downgrade Makatoa to a cheaper guy. But I do like him. And then Nanai, again, he was only like 3% owned, I think. If he gets a starting spot in the second row, he's a very good football player. I didn't actually look, but I'm pretty sure Helam Lukey, who's also around that same price, I think he's pretty highly owned, so I went with the Nanai. And then Andrew Davey, 266. He's a very good player. He's got a very good Supercoach game. And there was, big raps on him going to Manly last year. Unfortunately, literally his second run of the game, he did his ACL, I think it was, out for the season. He's back this year. And the only reason I've got him at the moment is because the unfortunate issues with Manly. I mean, Marty Tapau is injured. Ola Kawatu broke his arm, so that's a long absence in the second row there. Schuster is gone for the first 5 rounds, I think. So I'm not sold on keeping Davey. I would think he would get a starting second row spot with the injuries, but he's not going to be there long term, I would think. I would think when the players start coming back, he would go to the bench. So I'm up in the air if I would keep Davey for the long term, or keep him at the start, I should say. It's 50-50. Then we move down to the halves. So this is what I was talking about. I've got Lachlan Ilias as my backup halfback, just because, again, there's no real cheaper options that we're going to play and were not owned. So, yeah, that's one of the only players that aren't a pod. Then we have Sammy Walker, who was only... I was shocked at this as well. He's only 4%, 4 or 5%, I think it was. And yeah, he's looked good. Obviously, he got knocked out in that trial game on the weekend, which was unfortunate. But he might be kicking goals. I don't even know if he's kicking. He's honestly not a great goal kicker, so I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't. But yeah, I mean, we saw it from his debut last year. He was banging out tons left, right, and center. Then sort of the season caught up to him, and he was sort of dwindling off. But the start of the year with a full strength Roosters team, Sammy Walker could start off very hot. And then we have so Cam Munster is my main 5'8". I think he was 7%, so I've gone a little bit over with Munster. Just because I needed, again, he's close to that super pod range, which is crazy. And then Jay Clifford, my backup 5'8". I think he was 2%, and he's looked really good at the Knights. Again, it's trials, but he's kicking goals. He's a good goal kicker, and he honestly defensively he's really strong. He's not a big boy, but he's a good defender, and I like that in the 5'8". He makes a good amount of tackles, he makes a good amount of runs, and he's kicking goals. So I actually think 405k, Clifford is just a really sneaky option to go instead of a lot of people are going to Monet, Jackson Hastings. I like Clifford. I honestly don't. I like Clifford for 50k more than Hastings. I don't mind it. Then we move into the centre wing. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting. I've spent a bit of money in the centre wings because, again, because I'm going for super pods, a lot of these, I guess slightly more expensive guys are less owned. So starting off with the man David Nofaluma. I mean, this is the lowest price he's ever started at in Supercoach. He obviously had a bit of a down year last year, only averaged about 50. But I don't know. I'm expecting a bounce back for Nofaluma. I wouldn't pick him up in my main team just because it's just a little bit too expensive to start the year to keep a balance. But with the super pods, I mean, he's a super pod. And he always was a super pod. He was always starting the year at like 600k. He would always finish with like the best centre wing stats. And then Brian Toto sort of took it away from him. But Noffelum has always been that guy. And I don't know, I just feel like he's gonna be back with a vengeance this year. Bo for more. Again, I was surprised to see he was only like, he was either 4% or 6%. I think that'll, don't get me wrong, I'm sure I'm sure a lot of people will hop on for more when he gets named in the second row to start for Team List Tuesday. I'm sure he'll skyrocket, but as it is now, he was a super pod when I started, so I've got him in there. We have Moses Suley, also was like 2 or 3%, and 366. I mean, he's looking lean, he's looking strong. I think the Dragons, they're a pretty good team on paper. Like, they've been a good team on paper for a long time, and they've always sort of they've always let people down, but they are a good team on paper, and I think they do have some pretty good attack in them. And Sully is just, I mean, he is a good player. Like, if he can just get some consistency and just, he was pretty good at the Sea Eagles last couple of years as well, but I don't know. I feel like it's I think Sully's not a bad pickup. And then I've got Will Penasini. Again, he was another guy that was he very highly owned, like 50 to 60%. And again, like there's just no cheap centre wings that are super pods, because obviously all the cheapy centre wings that are gonna play are highly owned. So yeah, we've chucked Penasini in. On the reserves, I've got Rocco Berry, 322, a very good player. I'm torn if I want to start with Berry. I do think he is very good, but I don't know. Him in the centres, it could be a breakout year for him potentially. I do like him a lot, but we'll see. I'm tempted to not have him, but I don't mind it. And then we have James Roberts, 270k. I think he's like 1 or 2% owned, which is fair enough. Like, he's one of the cheaper guys that's not owned, because I don't know. Ever since leaving the Broncos, dude, Roberts has just gone downhill fast. So I don't know. Is this going to be another bit of a breakout year for Roberts? Is he going to regain some form? I don't know. I honestly don't really see it happening, but who knows? Maybe. And then we have Joseph Suwali, 260k. Again, he's not even going to be playing the first couple of rounds, but he's a cheaper guy that I know is going to score well when he comes back, and he is going to come back into that team. So yeah, I've gone with Suwali. And then the big boys, the fullbacks. So we have gone with Clint Gutherson, who I think is like 3 or 4% owned. Very expensive. He is very expensive, but I do expect decent scores every week from Gutherson, and he can definitely crack a ton, so I don't hate it. And then I've got Latrell Mitchell. With the news that he's going to be back in round 2, he was a pretty easy pickup in this super pod team. Again, I couldn't start with him in my proper team unless if Pappenhausen is out for round 1, even then, like, you would expect Pappenhausen to be right for round 2 anyway, so scrap that idea. But I do like Mitchell, and he's only like, obviously because he's missing round 1, and there's so many good fullback options. Not many people have him, so it could be a very good pod. So yeah, that's the super pod team. I'll quickly go through the dummy halves, because I think there were quite a few. Were there a few? So as you can see, Harry Grant, I mean, again, like, if I was going to do, like, if I do this team properly, I might push it up for, like, 10% and under for the super pods, for the pod team, and potentially I could go, like, a Harry Grant, a dummy half, and mix the team up a bit more. But I was just for this video, I was trying to go really super pod team wise. But if I'm trying to make it like a competitive side, I'd probably go more like 10% and under. So Grant, potentially an option there. If we go down here, Connor Watson, 7%, I wouldn't go near. Appy Coruscant, I wouldn't go near this year. Reece Robson at 1%. Oh man, if again, it comes down to the Cowboys, man. Like, you've obviously got Reuben Cotter, so if Cotter gets the 14, then Robson's a no-go. But even if Cotter starts at 13, Robson could spell for like 20 minutes, 20 plus, and Cotter could just go into dummy half. So if Robson was guaranteed for big minutes, he would be such a good pickup. But I just don't see it happening, unfortunately. Then Cody Nikorima, super pod level. Andrew McCulloch. I mean, he used to be so good for like a 60-point game every week, but he's sort of gone a bit downhill since then. As we go down here, not terrible options. Reuben Cotter, again at that 10%, so, if I push it up to 10%, I'd probably pick him up in the second row department. I'm surprised he's only 10% owned, honestly. And then not too much else, honestly, at dummy half. Corey Pakes, 10% as well. But yeah, that's a dummy half. We'll put Hetherington back in there for now. The front row forwards. Who else was I looking at? Luke Thompson. Luke Thompson actually piqued my interest because he was looking pretty good in the trials. Honestly, he was offloading a lot. He was carrying the ball a lot as well. So I was a little bit interested. Josh Papali'i is only 3% owned. That's crazy, but I don't know. Ricky Stewart's just really been stopping the minutes for Papali'i, but I don't mind it. And yeah, this is what I'm talking about with the front rows. I mean, Christian Welsh, 2%. Saifidi, 2%. Who else? Junior Paulo, 6%. Tarpany, 9%. If I was pushing it up a little bit more. Even like Paul Vaughan, 2%. There's so many good options in the front row department. But going cheap in the front row department seems good for now, but easily I could, someone like a Zane Musgrove, if I could get a little bit more cash, I'd probably bump Musgrove up to more of a, someone like a Saifidi or Welsh, potentially, someone like that, and then put Tanor Brown on the bench. And then that was pretty much it. I mean, the second row, again, there's a lot of good options. I mean, Cameron Murray, 7%. Luke Thompson again. Tyson Frizzell, like he was looking pretty good in the trials. He's only 2% owned. You got Mitch Barnett, 1% there. Luciano Lewis, 6%. Corey Harry and Naira, 1%. If he got some good game time, he'd be a gun. Kolomatangi, 3%. So many good options. So many. Isaiah Yo, 6%. So, there's not a dearth of second row options. But yeah, that's the Superpod team. Hopefully, guys are enjoying the Supercoach action. It's a lot of fun to make every time. And make sure to like and comment. I'll see you guys in the next one.